Hey everybody, so today I want to talk about a major mistake that startup boards make. So you want to hear about it? Come on in and let's talk about it. Okay, hey everybody, this is Tiffany. I am with Boss on the Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. So today I just want to talk about a major mistake I see new startup boards make when they're kind of in their startup phase. And I'm just going to get right to it because I don't want to keep the suspense waiting. But a big mistake that I see is they compare themselves to more established boards and they think that they're supposed to operate like older boards. So, what do I mean by that? So, I'm going to rewind a little bit and talk about what it means to be a startup. So, nonprofits go through developmental stages. I'm not trying to get too deep on you, but what I mean by that is take us as humans, right? We all have different stages of life. So, we have infants, toddlers, children, adolescents, teenagers, on and on, right? So, what are the different stages that you'll see? So, nonprofits are similar. They go through different stages of development as they're created. So, if you're a startup, you're probably an infant or a toddler. You're still getting your legs, you're crawling, and you're stumbling a little bit as you learn to walk and get on your own. But you can't really survive on your own yet. You need a lot of help, you need a lot of nurturing. So, what they tend to do in the startup phase is think, well, this board does this or they operate like this, so this is how we're going to operate. But you're different. You're special and you're different. So, traditional boards, like in the ideal sense, are governing bodies, right? So, they manage broad oversight. They do the broad oversight of the organization. So, they look at policies overall, they look at the finances and make sure everything is on the up and up. They help set a long term agenda, like a strategic agenda for the organization. And they're kind of removed from the day to day operations of the board. Now, that's a good thing, right? So, do you hate like on your job when you have someone like who doesn't know the job, but they're over you in title and they keep like looking over your shoulder and saying, well, why are you doing like that? We need to do like that. They want to insert themselves when you know you're the expert. Like, why are you here? That's the same thing a board who oversteps their boundaries can do. So you want that separation, right? You want to feel like, as a staff person in the organization, you worry about the day to day stuff and you make sure that the organization is running and is operational, and the board looks at overall oversight and they complement each other, right? But they don't run into each other or step on each other's toes. Well, that's in a traditional board when you're established. But when you're a startup, it's different. Okay, so you have to get in the mindset that you are a working board. Repeat after me. We are a working board. I gave you a little time to say it. You are a working board. So you have to be in the field, you got to be in the organization, you have to set the initial policies, you have to do some of the work, you got to do some of that on the ground fundraising. You are not there to sit back and just watch things work. You're not supposed to do that on any board, but a lot of older boards, that's what you'll see, right? But you have to be very aggressive, you have to be very intentional, you have to participate. And don't, if you're a founder, don't fall for the okey doke where your board is like, well, as a board, we're supposed to step back, but you can do the work. You do the day to day stuff, and we just manage you. Mm-mm. As together, you're supposed to work together to make sure that the board gets to a point where the organization gets to a point where you're set up so that a staff person can then come in and do what you need them to do, and then you can move and transition to your real role. But sometimes, like when you ask people, like, what's the role of the board? They'll tell you from the mindset of an established board, and just don't fall for that. You have to remember that in the beginning, y'all have to do the work. So you may be interfacing with clients on a regular basis. You may be the one collecting the data. You may be the one collecting money. You may be the one just out there in the community making real partnerships and talking about the organization and communicating. You should be the ones doing that. You are the number one advocates for the organization. You are ambassadors for the organization. So that has to be you. So don't fall for this mistake that boards make where they feel like they just can sit back and watch someone else do the work, or we can get volunteers to do that. Well, the volunteers have to know what they're supposed to be doing. You have to set it up for them so they know how to do the work. And the board are the first people, like they are like the first generation of the organization. So you have to set the right precedent and set the right example right from the very beginning. So again, repeat after me. We are a working board. Put that below in the comments. We are a working board. We do the work. And one thing I'll say before I sign off is a question that I get is, can I pay my board? So you may be accepting the fact that you're a working board. So your next question may be, okay, so since I'm a working board, when am I going to get paid? Let's step back for a second. So in most situations, board members for nonprofit organizations should not be getting paid. There are some nonprofits that do pay their board members, but they're rich. So that's not us, y'all. That's not us. In most circumstances, you don't need to be paying your board members. There are some laws in some states where you're not allowed to pay your board members because that's just not why nonprofits are set up, right? So the point of it is not to pay dividends to people who are on the board. The point of it is to put the money and the effort into the community to support your mission. So don't worry about dividends and paying the board. That's not their role. That's not their position. Their position is to advocate for the organization and get funding in because you're promoting a legacy for the nonprofit. Okay, so no, your board should not be getting paid. And even if they're doing the upfront work, they shouldn't be getting paid for that. And why are you worried about that anyway when you're just trying to get off the ground, right? And then eventually, if people on your board want to be paid, so perfect example, if you're a founder and you want to be paid as the executive director and the board makes a decision that you're the ED, you can transition off of the board into the ED position. There's nothing wrong with that. You can start on the board and then transition. And that can happen for maybe even the whole board. Maybe the board is saying, we're going to eventually transition the staff and we're going to recruit for people to replace us. That's perfectly fine. Just remember that as a board member, you should not be getting paid. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. So what I'm going to do is just drop some helpful links in the description box below. If you need help recruiting a good board, I have a board recruitment toolbox that may be useful for you. As always, visit me at my website at www.bossonabudget.com, and I'll see you next time.